Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I hear you.
Hey, everybody. I'm with my friend Pam. We'll talk in a minute, but we're just kind of getting used to all this. I told her it would be easy and it would be fine and it wouldn't be any problem. And you believe me, right?
I believe you, yes.
Okay.
I'm going along with what she says.
It'll be great. Pam is very personable. Now, those of you who know Bitsy Rogers, listen to Pam's voice. Pam sounds exactly like Bitsy. Bitsy is a dear friend of mine from Birmingham.
Oh,
And yep, and
it's the Southern
it
accent.
is, but you sound just like her. So Bitsy, if you're around, I'm sure she'll probably be coming on. Bitsy actually made a pattern for us that we gave away for free. That she's a really good quilter. So
Neat.
she's amazing. Yeah, she's real fun. And Bitsy is very fun, right, Bitsy? And those of you who know her know what kind of a hoot Bitsy is. All my kids subscribe to Bitsy's Facebook post because every day she gives some words of wisdom that really apply to all of us, and we love them. So anyway, okay, look at we've got all kinds of things going on, and Alex tells me I'm not supposed to squint my eyes and try and look at the chat. So I'm not going to do that because I get this really ugly look on my face when I do. But anyway, here we go. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Joyful and Merry Quilting. Our live today is a little bit late. It's not what it usually is. We usually do a little earlier in the week, but we are in Florida, hot Florida, but not as hot as Illinois. How about Georgia? Has it been really hot there too?
According to my Facebook thing, it was 90 something up there yesterday,
yeah,
too.
And humid. Yeah, and it's humid here too. And actually, well, I'll get into that in a minute. I'm kind of over jumping things here, but Cari, my daughter Cari, is going to be here. She's a yoga instructor and she's actually doing her yoga stuff. So she's teaching and she will be here as soon as she's done. We got some good stuff to talk about. So we're excited about that. But in the meantime, Pam, I'm going to share some announcements with you first. And then Pam and I are going to talk about some quilting things because Pam is a quilter. Now, this is like the best thing ever when two quilting moms get together because this was just the perfect merge of our families. You know, this just brought us all, pieced us all together, right?
It did.
So yeah, anyway, so it's thrilling. We'll talk about that in a minute. I'm going to tell you, I've got my notes here, so I'm going to be looking over here for a second. First of all, don't forget about our Night Owl Hangout on Monday night. Now it's 11 p.m. Central Time, which means, you know, figuring out your time. It's a little late Eastern Time. I'm sorry, 12 o'clock. But then we go back. So California folks, you know, 9 p.m., maybe you can join me. I hope you can. Everybody that wants to, if you're up and awake like I am, you know, what else do we have to do? We might as well. There's nothing on TV. There's nothing to do. You can't go anywhere, but we can quilt. And so we are going to quilt together. And this is what we are going to make. This is called a candle cozy mat. It's my pattern. It's a little unique. I'm not going to give away everything, but it's about the size of a little pot holder and it holds your candle so that you can protect your table. It's really cute. So there is a pattern on our website and it's a free download, a free PDF pattern. The way you get it is go to, and anybody can access it, joyfulandmerryquilting.com/owl, because it's our night owl. It's our night owl project. So /owl. When you go there, you can download the pattern. And once you've downloaded it, you can print it off. You can get all of your materials for this cute little project. And if you want to, when you join me, I'm going to be making one on our night owl quilting session. So if you want to, you can. If you want to just come and work on your own thing, if you want to just come and listen and chat, if you want to just watch and not get involved at all, and then maybe work on this particular project at another time, the live will still be up. You can click on the live and it'll be there for you. So that's the Night Owl Quilting. It is Monday night, 11 p.m. This coming up Monday, a couple of days from now. And we'll do more. We're not just going to do one. We're going to do more. Now, where did I come up with this idea? Why were we doing this? Well, we were talking a while back about favors and how everybody at this time of year, you need a favor for your quilt guild, a favor for a teacher, a favor for your kids or family or whatever at an event. Maybe you're having a gathering. You don't want to give somebody a huge present, but you want to give them something. And so I've come up with, I think, 3 or 4 different things that I'm going to periodically introduce at our live sessions. This is the first one. You can make this in any fabric. I've done this in Halloween fabrics, but you don't have to. Fall fabrics, Christmas fabrics, flowers, whatever you want. You can put it together. It just takes scraps. It's not very much. look through your stash or go and get yourself a fat. This is from a fat quarter stack that I had because I like everything to match. And there's so many cool fabrics out there. You just get some, go and pick out some fat quarters at your local shop and purchase those that will go with this. And I think it's a lot of fun. So we're going to do this one as our first project. And like I said, you don't have to just come and sew if you want, or just come in and chat if you want, because we'll have the chat going and we'll just talk. So it'll be very informal. So that's that. The other thing that we have, if you go to the website and you're already registered on the website, joyfulandmerryquilting.com. If you're already registered, you'll have to enter your email address to get in, and then you're already logged in, and then you can download the owl pattern. You have to have that /owl on there. If you're not registered, you just have to register. You enter your email so that you're in the system, and then you'll have immediate access to the pattern. That's not a problem. But then if you want, you're going to get an email after that asking you if you want, it'll tell you how to log into the site so you can access the free workshop. Now, if you are Project Linus and you're working on the Mystery Quilt Challenge, I have 5 tips in there to create a perfect quilt block that I think you will really benefit from, including the pressing and the cutting and how to get those points perfect. And that's going to be really important in this year's challenge. So if you're accessing the site, be sure and take a look at those. If you're not familiar with our website, once you go there, once you have a password and you are able to log into the site, it's really great. Anything that you have, our free patterns are available there. Anything that you have purchased will be available there as well in your library. So it's just a really neat setup. And thanks again to Alex for doing that. He's my saving grace. I'm telling you, our kids are amazing, aren't they? They do it for us. The technology is not always the easiest thing, but we can do the quilting, right? And that's our job. We can teach them how to quilt. We just
like they're interested.
We make them be interested. That's how Alex got roped into this. So
we depend on our kids.
We do.
A lot of that.
No kidding. We really do. We have been through a lot. We talked about that. We have been through. We didn't have internet. We wrote people letters. I'm sure a lot of you did the same thing. We contacted people on a telephone that we had to call and pay money to do. We couldn't just call anymore.
People don't even know what pay phones were.
No. And there was 10
this
cents.
generation.
No, it's true. 10 cents we had to pay, and then it went up to a quarter. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And then they took the phones out. After they went up to a quarter, nobody wanted to pay it anymore. We all got cell phones.
That was your thing. You carried a dime with you because you
did, and
for
that
safety.
Yeah, exactly. And that was if you got stuck somewhere and you needed to make a phone call. Yeah, you couldn't just go in. Sometimes you'd have a nice shop owner that would let you use their phone, but that was taking a risk. You didn't know for sure. You had to have that dime with you in your purse. So anyway, we used coins a lot. It was important for us. So we're getting ahead of ourselves here. I keep talking to Pam. We have been talking quilting since everything, but we've been talking quilting since I got here, and we haven't stopped. So it feels like I've only been here 5 minutes. So what's it been, 2 days?
We've enjoyed it.
We have enjoyed it. It's always fun to talk, and of course, talk about something that we love. And in addition to the grandkids and James, Pam's son, James, my son-in-law, that's why we're here, because James retired from the military. Isn't that weird to have a son who's retired?
I know.
We're just children, though. It has nothing to do with our age, but military retires them when they're just young and
40s.
So. Yeah. And he has served 20 faithful years. He has served. He was a lieutenant colonel at his retirement. And I'm telling you, if you've never been to a retirement ceremony, wasn't that something?
It was.
Oh my gosh.
And funny at the same time.
Yeah, it was.
The guys, his friends, made it funny for him, so that was good.
And we didn't know. I didn't know if I was supposed to laugh sometimes when they were doing some of the funny stuff, but it was kind of inside joke sort of thing. It was funny to me and to all of us, but it was kind of a somber occasion.
Supposed to be serious.
Yeah, should we laugh or not? But we laughed, and it was really funny, and they really enjoyed, just kind of doing their thing, and to see all that. And James is an amazing serviceman and an amazing patriot.
So proud of him.
Oh, you just, it makes me want to cry every time when I watch that. They had a part of the ceremony where they had the flag and they presented it to him, but they did the ceremony where they unwrapped, showed him the flag, and then wrapped it back up again. I couldn't hold it together. I mean, I was trying to tape it for my family to watch, and my hands were shaking. It was just it was so emotional to watch that and to see how many servicemen give their lives dedicated in service. Some, some families give up their family member and others give them up for a period of time while they're serving. But either way, what a sacrifice. I mean, I look at Cari, and you'll meet Cari when she gets home, but I think how in the world, and you're from a military, I mean, your family were
Yes, very
served too.
much
So did
so.
my dad. Yeah. And they did, and it was expected, but anymore, to see somebody that's done this and served so well and so proudly, it just makes us just so proud of them and so proud of James and all that he did. You raised such a good boy, and I'm
Oh,
so glad that my daughter
he's
found him.
oh, and we are so proud of
Oh,
Cari
yeah, or they found each
and the
other.
family. I mean, I was glad that they recognized the family support
That is so
because
true.
it is anyone that serves in the military, their family serves too,
No
and they
kidding.
sacrifice a lot.
No kidding.
All
That
the
is
way down to
true.
the children
Yeah.
because dad can't always be there on
Mhm.
birthdays
Yeah.
or to see them perform in
Mhm.
something that's
Mhm.
important.
And one thing James said that kind of struck with me too was that he talked about, the family, and we're going to talk some about that with Cari, but he talked about how, the family, you see the servicemen who leave and they go serve, but he said all the things they miss out on, that they are this, the kids and the wives miss, or the spouses, not just the wives, miss when they're deployed or where they're serving. But they miss all that too, and that's very
It's a
very
it
difficult for
is.
them.
It's a
Yeah.
sacrifice
Uh-huh.
on both sides
No
for
kidding. Yeah, it really
and so
is.
many people don't realize that.
Mhm.
They thank the servicemen if they see them. Some of them do that
Mhm.
are so and that's a great thing to do
Right.
to thank them for their service, but they also, thank the
Yeah.
families, and I was
Mhm.
glad they recognized that
Mhm.
yesterday at James's retirement.
Yeah, Cari got
And
an award too, and then she
right.
pinned one on him, and then he came down and gave all of us something, which
Oh, I
was so
know.
sweet. That
So
was so
sweet of him.
nice. Yeah, it really was, to the guys. So anyway, it was quite the ceremony. We really enjoyed being there, and I'm totally off script, but I told Pam I have a script here written, but I won't go with it, and I'm not.
Oh,
So then I have to go searching for where I am because I don't know what I'm talking about right now. But anyway, Pam is from Chickamauga, Georgia,
correct.
and she has a quilt shop there. Now, best of all worlds, right? Your quilt shop is
It's called Memories and More, and I have had it for 39 years.
Mhm.
And we started out as a dress wear
I
fabric
didn't know
shop,
that.
right?
Huh.
Because there was a quilt shop that was within 10 miles of us,
Ah.
and we're in a small town. Chickamauga's only about 3,000 people, and we're just south of the Chickamauga Chattanooga National Military Park, which is a Civil War battlefield park. And anyway, um, we started out as a dress wear shop, and this gradually moved over into quilting. The other shop closed, and we got more and more calls for carrying quilt fabrics,
Mhm.
and it was just a gradual change. And the last probably 10 to 15 years, we have carried mostly quilt fabrics.
Mhm.
Um, I carried a few things for people that request because we are a small town.
Mhm.
And
Do people still make clothes? Do you have people still come in
I
and do that?
have a few people who come in, but the sad part is that we're losing a
Yeah.
generation of sewers.
Mhm.
Um, and we're so excited when we get someone in that
Yep.
is interested in sewing.
Which
And
is the purpose of what we're doing here, is to try and recruit people to come into the hobby, into the craft. This is an art form, but it's a you can learn it. It's not
oh,
something that,
yes.
if you're not talented in art, of any kind, that's not what quilting is. I mean, it is an art form for sure, but we can teach you. We can teach you how to do it. We can teach you how to sew and how to quilt, and that's what we want to do. Pam does that in her shop. She teaches people and encourages people, and that's what we like. That's how a lot of us got involved, was just having
Exactly.
somebody teach. But when did you first start sewing though? Do you remember?
Yes. I had a grandmother who sewed,
Mm.
And my first memories of sewing were watching her sew on her treadle sewing machine.
Isn't that crazy?
And we laughed about it. This is one thing we were discussing recently. We think sewing skips a generation sometimes, and it did with me. My
And
mom
me.
didn't sew at all, but my grandmother started me sewing from I can't even remember. I mean, probably before I was 5 years old, and I can remember her letting me pedal her treadle sewing machine and probably breaking her thread thousands of times while she was trying to sew. But she was a quilter and a seamstress. She had talents in making clothing that I wish I had.
Yeah.
But she could go into a dress shop, turn the dress inside out, look at it, go home and cut out a pattern to make it. And I never gained that. And she did try to teach me to quilt before I was 10, and I do remember making a little doll quilt back
Oh,
then,
really?
a little bitty doll
Ah.
quilt that somewhere it's probably still around, but
Oh,
I
I
don't
wish
know
you
where.
had it. I would
Yeah,
love to show that.
yeah.
Wouldn't that be
Uh,
fun?
but I just never got really enthused about
Uh-huh.
the quilting, but learned to sew, and by the time I was in high school, was making all my own clothes and things like that.
See, now I could never do that. I made Carrie a dress one time, and that was only by the grace of God because she was little and she needed a nice dress for a dance at school. And all the dresses with her size were all little kid dresses. And she wanted something that looked like everybody else. And so we went to Sofro, I think it was. We bought a pattern, we bought fabric for it. I'm not kidding that. Carrie just walked in. It turned out pretty good, didn't it? And it was totally God taking my hand and running that sewing machine for me because I sure didn't know how to sew. And it was really, a necessary thing for a lot of
Mhm.
people.
Well,
That's just
and
what
I
everybody
just
did.
enjoyed it. To me, it was
Yeah.
it my but I have 2 daughters and neither of them find it relaxing like I do,
Mm.
but I enjoy it.
Well, that's
And
our whole quilting is my therapy thing. I
mhm,
mean, we enjoy doing it because it does relax
right.
us and make us feel good.
And but I didn't get into quilting until years later after I had my fabric shop
Mhm.
when we had a monthly quilt sh- group that met at the shop, and they actually my grandmother was gone by then, which sadly I wish I had gotten into it before
Yeah.
she was gone,
Yeah, she would have
but
loved
she
that.
would have loved it.
Yeah.
But they taught me a lot
Yeah.
going to that, and we I was working full time as a nurse at the time and therefore didn't have a whole lot of time to do quilting, but um, I did make the little monthly kits and
Yeah.
worked those up
Mhm.
as little for a sampler quilt.
And that's kind of what we're doing here too, is this gathering together sort of thing, like the Night Owl Quilting, where we can kind of just we like to do it's fun to quilt, but sometimes it's fun to quilt together, as
And it's
with
fun to
friends
share with
and to
other
share
people what
and
you're working
ideas.
on. Right.
Exactly. And now, with modern technology, how do I share my ideas? I post a video on YouTube where I've done a demo or something like that. We don't necessarily it kind of is a two-edged sword. We can talk about we can show everybody in person, which is a little easier sometimes when you really want to help somebody out. But um, a lot of times that's difficult to do because you don't reach hardly anybody. You just reach the group that's there.
Mhm.
Then when we do it on YouTube, we reach lots of people, but we don't always have that interaction. So that's where the live thing kind of merges the two and we can answer questions and show stuff up close. So that's what we're hoping for.
And the
Well,
good thing about doing the videos that you do, you can
yeah,
rewind them
yeah,
and
that's
actually
true.
watch them again if you didn't learn what,
Exactly. Yeah, that's the whole point, or you can watch. I feel like I should do a blooper video sometimes because I have some things like when I'm trying something
Oh,
and I
yeah.
totally ruin it, and I'm like, oh, and then I do it again. It looks all professional and nice what I've done. But anyway, Pam made a wall hanging for James. And it's going to be hard to show this here just because we're together. But look at this. Okay,
I
so
think I've got it right side up.
yeah,
It
and
was simple. It's not anything fancy. Um, Years ago, the shop got in some patriotic fabrics, and I put these pillow patch back, and I found them uh, a month or two ago, and I had a little sign pinned on this for James's retirement in
Mm.
2023,
Isn't
but I
that
didn't
something?
have the date that I put it on there, but it was probably several years ago. So
Yeah.
all I did was take the pillow patch and add some of my patriotic fabrics because we carry a lot for our Quilts of Valor
Mhm.
people, and just used one of the
Isn't that beautiful?
eagles on the back
Uh-huh.
for because he's Air Force
Yeah,
and
yeah.
retiring.
And we discovered something kind of interesting that I told Pam I wanted to talk about just for a second, and then we're gonna
Get Carrie in
get
here.
Carrie, and she's standing waiting for us. But we could talk. Like I say, we've been talking for 2 days. We could talk for two more, and you guys we'd forget you were here. So, but what we noticed was Pam's got on this particular fabric. There's a bunch of flags on here. Do you see? And there's all these that she fussy cut to make sure that they were all in the right place in the right order, that they were all complete flags, which, what kind of a nightmare that is when you're trying to use measurements. But what she noticed on the flags were they weren't exactly the American flag, as we know it. It had, what'd you say? It had 52 stars on it?
No, it has 55
55
stars and 12 stripes, which, if you know anything about the flag, it's supposed to have our 50 stars
Uh-huh.
and 13 stripes to represent the original 13 colonies.
Yeah.
And I had this 3/4 put together, and all of a sudden I looked at the flags and thought, wait a minute, they don't look right. And then I counted the stars and I was like, wonder if this is something that is a requirement
Yeah.
because it would be a copyright infringement or something if they actually printed a real
Mhm.
flag.
So does anybody know? We didn't have time to look
I
it
didn't
up,
we
but
didn't
we
have
wanna
time
know.
to research it, but
Yeah.
I was like,
I thought that was
nobody
so
look at my flags because if you count the stars, they're not right.
and to be honest, I would have never thought to count the stars.
But I went down and looked at all of my
Yeah.
fabric. I was working on it at home, and I went down and looked at all the fabrics at my store, and absolutely none of the patriotic fabrics have a
Mhm.
flag that has the correct number of stars in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
thinking maybe they're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, and I'm sure somebody knows. I'm gonna look it up too because we said we didn't have time to do it here. But I thought that was really curious. I think that's interesting. We just talked about copyright.
We found all kinds of
Yeah, we did. So we've had a really good time. But anyway, I thank you so much,
Thank you.
Pam,
Let
for
me
being here. I really
thank you.
appreciate it.
We
Oh,
have really enjoyed it.
we
Thank
have.
you.
Yeah, thanks
Good
for
luck.
being here. Thanks. Isn't she amazing? So, Carrie, come on over. Now, Carrie's been waiting in the wings, and we're going to talk a little bit. Okay. Say hi.
Hi.
Carrie just came from yoga. This is
Yes.
she's into the yoga experience, and
Yeah.
she is actually an instructor, and she does a great job. And I wish I was in her class. So I told her to make some videos just for mom, so that mom could follow along and I could learn how to do it because I love to be able to do that. She watches my quilting videos. I'd
There
like
you
to watch her YouTube
Perfect.
videos. So anyway, let me find Pam and I kind of got off script a little bit. So
Okay.
is that a surprise to you?
They have not stopped talking quilting. It's been really fun to hear them giggling and talking about their fun things.
Yeah. So
Very good.
anyway, okay. Show us your blankie care. Well, first of all, before we start, the quilt behind me. This was actually Carrie's daughter, Kate. Excuse me, Katie's quilt. And it's the bee quilt. You can see all the bees that I put on here. And I just got an embroidery machine. And so I embroidered all the different bees on the quilt. And then I have alternated the quilt, the little bee with the flowers. Now, I designed the pattern sort of. This middle part was actually a whole quilt that was in Quilt World magazine, I think it was. Actually, I sent them a picture of it and they put it in the magazine years ago. But then the rest of the things I put together and I made those, and they're just fusible applique that's put on there. But look at how long Katie's 15, and it looks good. The quilt's still held up, so there are ways to make it last. And I just want to share with you.
The bees, I have to say, in case you can't read them, are things like be prayerful, be honest, be grateful,
Read 'em all.
respectful, be clean, be joyful, be still, be forgiving, be involved, be kind, be positive, be loving, be smart, her name, be humble, be patient, and be true.
Isn't that fun? Now you go make one because it's a fun idea. I think I was really excited when we came up with it. And I think you requested that at the start.
Yeah,
It was
we
your
kind of
thing.
talked about it. She's my
Yeah.
only girl, so
Yeah,
you know,
so
you
she
got to
wanted
start it off right.
Yeah, and it was just really fun to do. And she's had it when we went and visited them in Germany when they were there. We she had it on her wall, so it's always fun to see it travel with her and do all that.
Yeah.
So that's Katie's quilt. Now, when Cari was born, I wasn't really a quilter then. I sort of was. I made her this little. You probably don't even remember it. It was a Raggedy Ann with a red
Oh, I
back.
do remember it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
well, good. And it was just tied, and I didn't even know that you could top stitch. I didn't have a sewing machine. So I hand whip stitched around the edge, which was not very durable. But anyway, that was all I knew, and that's what I made.
I
But
put a lot of love into the items that I have that I love. So
Yeah.
I'm sure I wore it out.
Yeah,
well.
you probably did. But because then a friend of Carrie's grandma, my husband's mother, made this quilt for Cari. Now it's kind of hard to see because of being on here, but if you can see, some of you may recognize this pattern, but it's the little farmer boys and girls, and then it's all hand quilted. It's a hand quilted around the ovals, and then the binding was all hand quilted on. She put it all on there. And I mean, it was just, she gave that to Cari. Well, Cari loved it. And when I say loved it, I don't just mean loved it. It became a part of her being to the point that if we forgot it somewhere, we had to go get it. When we tried to wash it, when it would get dirty, she would stand like Linus and hang on to it because we didn't have a dryer, a clothes dryer. We had to hang it on the line. And she would hold on to that quilt while it was drying outside because she needed it. And then as she got older, I don't remember how old you were when you decided.
Very old. Yeah. I remember still being 12 and knowing that if I slept under my blanket, not including my head, everything would be protected from anything that bad would ever come into our house. So this did well. So
Yeah,
it served
it
me
did.
well. Kept me safe.
She's here to talk about it. So she survived. But
Yes.
anyway, I remember one time, I can't remember how old it was. I think it was when you decided you weren't going to eat Happy Meals anymore.
Oh.
And she was growing up. I don't know. You were 12 or 10.
Absolutely.
I don't know. She wasn't going to eat Happy Meals, and she wasn't going to use her Blankie anymore. And that was her choice. I didn't take it away from her. And so we put it up in the closet, and she had it in there. And pretty soon it came back out of the closet. And I asked her why she took it out, and she said because she needed something to wipe her tears, and she didn't have anything that worked like this quilt. So I don't know if you had a really traumatic childhood. I'm really sorry if you did.
What's funny is I remember the reason being I learned the words old time's sake. And so I was like, I'm just doing it for old time's sake.
And as you can
I'm
see,
so grown up, I can be nostalgic now. So I just pull it down to be nostalgic.
Well, 12-year-olds do that kind
Yeah,
of stuff.
yeah,
So.
it's true. What else is funny is that it's so stretched out, right? And I got very nervous that it was going to not, because the back started stretching beyond the binding. And so I decided to quilt it myself. The parts, did you know this?
No.
I kept this a secret.
Oh,
Okay.
fun.
So you can kind of see, I don't know if you can see it on here. I'm going to hold it up this way. It's terrible. Do you see how terrible that is? All of the stitches are up and down. I did one circle and I thought, I'm going to ruin it. So I stopped and I hoped you would never notice. And so I never told you, but yeah, it's terrible.
Oh, I think it looks beautiful. And Pam and I were talking about that too. The more conversation we were having, that how those first quilts are just not exact. When we start out, we got to keep doing it. Don't get discouraged when the first project doesn't turn out exactly as you would hope, like the one in the magazine, because it will get better. And our instructions will get better, and we'll learn more things and more techniques. And that's kind of one of the things with the Project Linus Mystery Challenge. I try and do with each quilt that we do. I try and find new things that I can teach you. Now, I always have the diehards that say, nope, I've always done it this way. I'm not going to do anything different. And they create this most beautiful quilt. And great, they don't need to. But then sometimes you get a little curious. Is there a way to make it faster? Is there a way to make it quicker? Is there a way to make it better? Maybe our points match a little bit better. Maybe put that binding on in a straighter way. That's what we try and teach and learn. And that's what we try and share here too. It's just new techniques, new things, because this was a long time ago. And this was when it's really faded, but when we look at it, this particular fabric, at the time, I don't know how many years ago, you want to say how old you are?
Oh, sure. I'm 44. I think I was actually like, do I know? I don't know.
Yeah,
She
she
gets past
looks
40 and forget.
24, right? I mean, geez. So she's my idol. I want to. I wish I could go the other direction, but anyway, So yeah, you're all shocked. I know, and I am too because I didn't know she was 44. I thought she was 42.
We counted up. We might be wrong.
But I don't know how old I am, so who knows? We don't keep track of that stuff. We don't go with the chronological stuff. We don't go with the chronological or the age. We go with physiological, how we feel. And
absolutely.
Yeah, that's how we do it. That's Cari's yoga thing. So we don't know how old we are. Anyway,
that's right.
So now Cari's going to share another story that is just really cool.
Okay, so I had twins first. These were my first babies. I got pregnant with twins, and being pregnant with twins is horrid. Let me tell you, my body I didn't know could stretch that big. So
Cari's
anyway.
teeny too. She's very short,
and my belly went straight out front. People from behind would get really irritated in the grocery store when I was lumbering along because they're like, "Oh my gosh, get out of the way!" And then I would turn sideways with this gigantic belly, and every time, oh, I'm so sorry. And they hadn't even said anything, but I knew. I'm like, yeah.
And it was
shame
square.
on you.
It was like a square belly. And I saw her, we saw her like right near the end, and we came in and I looked and I was kind of shocked because I felt the same way. I didn't know a belly could get that big. And I looked at it and I went, oh, and I kind of said, Cari, and James, her husband, who is so sweet, and he says, be careful. And I said, what a miracle.
It was a miracle that I didn't pop. Anyway, it was crazy. But what was so fun was, so that experience itself is, scary, your first baby and all this stuff. And so mom says she brings she has some baby quilts for the boys that came. And
it's because he was in the NICU.
That's right. Yeah. So I had, right. When they were born, one of them had to go, he was retracting really bad. So we had to go to the NICU for a few days, 5 days actually, that were horrid. And, so they got Project Linus blankets because that's a hardship, which is, Project Linus is fantastic and has been a really huge part of our lives. But, I don't think but anyway.
You're not going to believe this.
Okay.
This is like, first show yours.
Yeah,
show your
so
quilt.
This one's mine.
That's Cari's quilt.
And then, so she said, I found these blankets and I knew they were for your boys. And she brought them in, and this.
Yeah, the light is hard to.
There we go. It's the exact same fabric.
Look at that.
The exact same fabric. Like, I don't know. They kept it somewhere very safe. And because look at, it's like in perfect condition, brand new. Anyway.
And it's 20 years old now. That one is.
Yes, yeah. True. And so what's funny about it was she brought them, and I had been very particular that my boys not be called the twins. I was very careful that they were always the boys. I didn't want them to lose their identity. And so I always made sure they dressed separately, unless they were being naughty and they had to dress the same. If we're fighting over clothing, we're going to be the same. And so they never did. They always had their own shoes, always, because I didn't want them to ever feel like they were, the other person. So anyway, so I was very careful that they have different colors. And so when they're coming home from the hospital, outfits were blue and white. So Luke was going to have white, Logan was going to have blue, and they came back. So she brings me these blankets. One has blue on the back and the other had white. And I just couldn't believe it. It was so perfect. And it just kind of was, these blankets, they just make you feel so good. So when I saw my blanket reincarnated into two for my babies, it really brought a lot of comfort. So the one hung with him in the NICU, and the other was with the other while he was away from his brother. And then, they got back together. And so lots of fun pictures and snuggles with these blankets, but that was just really fun.
Yeah. Isn't that something? And those of you that are involved with Project Linus or any charity where you give a part of your heart with your quilt, things like this happen all the time. Quilts of Valor, those who give to people in hospice, in like the dialysis centers, cancer care, all that sort of thing. Things like this happen all the time. The right quilt goes to the right person. We have found that to happen over and over again. Pam, somebody asked the name of your quilt shop again. Quilted Memories, right?
Memories and More.
Memories and More. Why am I saying Quilted Memories? Jeez. I'm sorry. Memories and More is Pam's quilt shop in Chickamauga, Georgia. So, let's see. So anyway, Cari grew up. Here she is, all grown up. And my kids all were involved with Project Linus because that's what we do. We're, as a family, that's our service. And they learned how to quilt. Alex has been basted quilts with me on the floor when he was just a little boy. Loved it. He really liked it. Taught my friend how to close the pins with a pin tool. He was good at it. He was just a little guy and he was good at it. But when Cari then and James became active in the military, when they travel to different places, um, you see a lot in the military. And Pam and I talked about that a lot. And the families, either the disconnection between the families is tough. It's tough on the kids. It's tough on the spouse, and it's tough on the service person. I mean, they have a really difficult time leaving their family for so long. So, Cari, and I forgot to. We'll do the poem.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that too.
Yeah. Anyway, this is so cool. So Cari started doing this in her wherever she was. She had bags and bags, I think, of these
Yes.
quilts. Yeah. So go ahead.
And I'm down to the last bag now, so I need to get some more of these. But I love this. So these are just fleece. The ones that I have are fleece because they're easier to pack and take with us. But people would make these, and when they do the corners, often, sometimes they would have the fringe on the end. Which, when you do fringe on the ends of these blankets, you leave a corner, a square that you cut out, that you have nothing left of. So what happened was those that made these would use the fleece. They would cut it out. They would do the corner so they could cut. They could, what is this?
Fringe.
I'll do
Yeah.
all the fringe. There we go. And they would save this little piece and turn it into its own little blanket right here. Then what we would do is we would give this to the child that was being left as their parent was deploying, and then the parent would take this. This can make me emotional. So they could always have a hug. Sorry. Oh my gosh, how embarrassing. So they could always have a hug from their service member, whoever it was, when they were away. And the service member could do the same. And so when my kids first, when their dad deployed, we made sure that he had little ones from each of my kids. They each picked out the blanket that they wanted, and they had their blanket all snuggled up with them. And we have a picture. I should have gotten the picture anyway of them with the blankets.
We can post it.
Okay.
We'll post it on the Facebook page.
And then he had the little ones that he took with him. And so whenever they were feeling a little sad or missing dad, they could go hug their blanket, and they knew that he was receiving that hug on the other side. And so it really helped a lot. Oh my gosh. He just retired. It's all emotional. We're just in this whole emotional state right now. Anyway, so it was just a really beautiful way for them to stay connected while they were apart. Because being apart from each other over holidays and things is very difficult. And you try really hard as a parent that's home to make sure that they know, oh no, that's perfectly fine. We celebrate. We are so good at celebrating on any day, anything. We have whatever we need to celebrate whenever, is no big deal. But it is really awesome as a parent to have something that can comfort your child and tell them that you don't have to hug me right now to feel them. You can feel them. Like, go hug your blanket, and it will make you appreciate that. So along with that, some service members have passed while they're away from their child. And it's really sweet to see when these little tiny pieces are put in their casket with them, that allows that child to continue to hug their parent when they're away from them.
Joanne Holly sends you a
hug. Thank you, Joanne. So anyway, that's what that all started. So we decided that it was so great for my kids. And we tried to start doing that with others, and wherever we traveled or whenever we saw that there was a big deployment going out or something, we would try to collect these blankets and send them off with kids, or those that were, going to be away from their family member for a while, or if there was a situation where somebody passed. We would try to make sure, and sometimes it was a sibling. The siblings would have the blankets given to them, and then the little other piece would go with the sibling that had passed in their casket, and it allowed them to connect with their siblings. So these don't have to just be military or, business people. They can be really for anybody. And it's been really sweet to see these little kids who don't quite understand what's happening and why they're no longer with that person, that they have a little connection there. So we have a little poem that goes with it. And we did it in both Spanish and English. We had a big Christmas thing one time. There was a big deployment going out in one of the places we were stationed. And so we had so many volunteers donated so many blankets and just bags. I mean, I remember
wonderful.
you guys packed your van was packed full. They brought them all to us, and we had them all laid out on tables, and they were just beautiful. And then people would come in with their children, and the kids would walk around and they would find the perfect one. And there was always a perfect one. It was always, and some that we were setting out and we're like, who is going to want this? Like, this pattern is just not the pattern, but like I didn't even recognize the character or, whatever that it was. And sure enough, there was somebody that couldn't believe that they had this character. And it was just really amazing. A lot of the kids loved especially the camo, and those always kind of went in the flags and things like that. But anyway, it was just really amazing. So they picked out their blanket, and then they would give it to, give the little piece to their parents before they left. And it felt like just this lovely way to kind of spread a little comfort in a situation that was tough.
Yeah. Isn't that something? I mean, you know how we can take quilting and blanket making and fabric, and we do so many wonderful things with it, you know? And we thought, surely we can do this with quilts too. I mean, it's not just
Absolutely.
so we have so many fabrics and blocks, and in my mind, I'm thinking, wouldn't it be fun to make a quilt and then one block, duplicate it, and make a little miniature of that? We couldn't be this big because they wouldn't be able to probably take
Yeah,
that
it's
with. It needs
easiest
to
to
be
do.
tiny.
Yeah.
So maybe like even a half square triangle or a quarter square triangle with the little fabrics in it that were in there. You could easily do that and sew around the edge and then just kind of let the very edge fray. That would fit in a wallet. You know, that would be
Absolutely.
really easy
Something
to do.
without batting and things. Just make
Uh-huh.
it real easy for them to slip in with there because they do not want a lot of extra bulk when they're running around. So,
Alex is scoot closer to the mic.
oh,
It's hard to
sorry, I'm
hear.
too quiet.
We're yelling here. So anyway, thank you. That was
Yeah.
so beautiful. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. This has been a very military weekend for sure. You know, we have enjoyed every moment of it. You know, it comes with its happy and sad times because this has been your life for 20 years, you know, and you think about that and all and 20 years plus, you know. So Pam and I, we forgot to talk about all of our grandkids. I had that all on the list too, that we were our grandkids that we love and share, and the closeness that they bring to us, you know, and how that brings families together. It all's quilting. I mean, you know, we piece things together. You read that quote about piecing our families together with love. That's exactly what happens when we do this, and we're able to do other things that, you know, not every family understands or knows until they get some of these physical kind of connections that they have from the blankets or from the fabric or whatever like that. So anyway, did we go through everything that we were
That's
talking
everything.
about going through? We have everything sitting here. I'm sure I've forgotten a bunch of stuff. Like I say, we were going to have a whole section on the grandkids and I skipped over that by accident. I'm sorry. We'll do that another time. We'll do it next time we get together. But anyway, yeah, but the event that you organized at church, I thought was really exciting. That brought it home to a lot of people. And so that's why the quilting community, and I've said this before in my videos, we need to make sure that quilting is more than just sewing fabric together, cutting fabric and sewing seams. It's more than that. It has so much meaning to us, the fabric choices, the patterns, like Pam's quilt, and meticulously choosing those patriotic fabrics from, you know, she's got a quilt shop. She's got a ton of fabrics to pick from. So, you know, she picked the ones that she thought were most perfect for James. That's what we need to communicate to others, that's what we are going through. When we quilt something, we don't just cut fabric and sew seams. There is meaning behind it. When we give someone a little quilted gift, there's meaning behind that. We worked hard on that little project, and handing it over to them, they know that we put our heart and soul into it. So that's kind of my message for today. Do we have any questions? Can you see that,
Did
Kara?
you show the inside of your
Because that's
surprise?
a secret.
Excuse me. Like my secret quilting. I'm so sorry. Yes. 20
We're
years
gonna
you
show
can
that
tell.
on
Yeah, you
Night
can
Owl
share.
Quilting.
Oh,
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
Oh, dear.
So anyway, you can only imagine. Actually, maybe I should show you so then you can be prepared for it. That's probably a good idea. I was being selfish, but I
She's
think
fantastic at making difficult, like turning to things that I mess up and then
No.
fixing it. How many times I've sent you quilts that I'm like, well, I'm trying to make this quilt. I'm about a third of the way through. Help. I totally
Carrie is
screwed
a
it up.
quilter too. She's made some
Ish.
beautiful.
Ish.
No, she says that. See, that's the confidence that I need to instill in her. I don't know what I did to her to make her feel that way because she is amazing and she did a beautiful job on several quilts that you
Well,
have made. So come
You're a
on.
good teacher. Honestly, if I can learn, this is the person to teach you.
Well,
So
she does a great job. So anyway, but okay. So the exciting part of this, and I'm going to show you since you all came here and joined with me today, you deserve to be a part of this. Is inside you fussy cut a fun little square. Do you see that? Happy Halloween. So this is kind of that you can put anything in there. Can you imagine if you had this? You could have a bouquet of flowers in here. You could have something Christmassy in here. You could have something Hanukkah in here. Put a menorah inside and then put a candle. Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be cool to have the stand here and then have the menorah coming out from the stand if you've got a base that's about this size? So many fun things that you can adapt to your own personal circumstances. So anyway, thanks for that was good. I'm glad you said that. So, sometimes, of course, we learn from each other. So anyway, let's see.
That's funny.
Mary Sue wants to know where you and James are
Oh,
retiring
well,
to.
Florida. This place is fantastic. So I think we'll stay here forever. I don't know if we'll stay right here, but we'll definitely probably stay down.
Yeah,
where
they are
it's
definitely
warm
warm
weather
weather
people.
people. Yeah, they really, you always have been. They lived
It's
in Arizona for a while.
yeah,
and
that's
to-
our favorite
yeah,
down south.
but they lived in with Mary Sue's from, Mary Sue from
Mhm.
Ohio. So
Yeah, I
anyway, so Carrie lived in the neighborhood there too for quite a while when they
Yeah.
were in Ohio.
That's fun.
So
I have to say, so Judy, awesome that your son is 51 and still has his blanket.
oh.
Him and me. I understand.
Doesn't that make you feel good
That's
that you
awesome.
know that it meant something? It wasn't in the Goodwill.
Yeah.
Oh, but anyway, that's great. Do
Oh
you see
my
anything
goodness.
else there?
Yeah, there's so many fun things. It's so fun that all of you
Oh,
are here.
yep.
Yeah. Oh, my yoga
Share
videos.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been talking about that. Okay, I told Carrie she needs to do this because she has that talent of talking back and forth to people and inspiring you to do stuff. And yoga, especially as you get older, your
So
joints.
good for you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and she has a way of. You work with older folks too.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
mostly.
mhm. So you can only imagine how fun that would be, to have her as your yoga instructor. So what I told her is she needs to recruit some people out here and have you be her test group, do some videos and just see how it goes because I know you're gonna love her as a teacher. And
And
that way,
everybody can do it.
yeah.
It comes down to breathing and just stretching just a little bit.
Yep, yep. It's a really, really positive health move. So I think that's really important that we remember that. The other thing I want to ask you all, and if you can comment, I'm going to be asking it. But one of the things, since we're talking about new quilting, is we are going to have a course on our website for beginning quilters. And when I say that, I mean we're going to start from square one, and we're going to go from the very beginning of picking your fabrics, picking your machine, getting your tools. In fact, I think Alex has got next week. We're going to have our quilting tip is going to be the 10 things I wish I would have had as a new quilter. And I go through all those. So anyway, our course is actually going to be something. But what we are in need of is beginning quilters. Now, if you've already quilted, this wouldn't work for you. But if you are a brand new quilter or you know somebody who wants to learn and you'd like to be in our test group, we need like 4 or 5 people to do that. So I don't know if there's anybody out there. If you want to, if you could email Alex at info@joyfulandmerryquilting.com and just let him know you would be interested. You haven't quilted or you're like very, very, very new, and help us develop this course because again, we got to keep this going. It's like Pam and I were saying, we can't let this die out. We need to have this hobby. It's not an old lady thing. As much as people think, if I look at the demographics on this site, on our YouTube channel, we've got some younger people that are getting involved. We still have a lot of older people because we're home.
But there's a lot of my friends that actually are quilting now too, which is
Yeah.
awesome because I know a little bit. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, have you tried this? And then they're like, ooh, she knows everything. Yeah, I know.
So anyway, that would be I think that, I mean, get our friends to join us, we need to make sure that we have everybody gathered together. But anyway, thank you all so much for joining me. I am so happy to have Cari here, Pam here, and come on over here, Pam. And we just want to have a little, you can sneak in the back. We just want to finish up with all of us telling you to have a very joyful and merry week. I am always trying to be joyful, but I will always be merry. So thank you so much for joining us. And we will see you again Monday night at our Night Owl Quilting Hangout. I want to hang out with all of you. So please pass the word, join me, see what happens. Thanks for coming.